Jules, obviously, I think viewers and listeners will have noticed that we tend to talk about the big club, just a little bit more than the
Yeah.
other ones. And like, I'll be honest, when Ipswich came up, a lot of championship players. I wasn't familiar with many of them. I knew that Leif Davis guy who was good. I'd seen him on TV. Amari Hutchinson, I remembered him from Chelsea. Scored a great goal, by the way.
Yeah.
They're near the bottom of the table. They're right around the relegation mark. They're probably going to be like this all year. But I was struck by how these pieces fit together for Kieran McKenna. And it could be one of two things. It could be that these are ordinary players.
Yeah.
And McKenna's a genius. Or it could be that actually these are just players I don't know because I don't follow the championship.
It's a bit of both, I think, Gab.
But I really like the football that they played. They just seem to be so unfazed when playing United. They had so much confidence. And I want to ask you about the lap because people here in England, some of them last night on television, are slightly losing their minds about. Somebody was saying like, oh, Delap is the heir apparent to Harry Kane. Mark Ogden, we were chatting to, he was comparing him to Alan Shearer, right? Which I said, I respect.
Yeah.
Respect. But
still
I
young.
do. For those who don't know, Liam Delap obviously was a Manchester City player.
He was.
He's still very young. They got, I think, 15 million for him, rising to 20 with bonuses, blah, blah, blah. Between Delap and Cole Palmer, I'm not ready to put Taylor Harwood-Bellis in that category just yet. Did Pep get these two badly wrong?
But what do you mean by wrong? Did he get them wrong? I think they had to. I think they sold them because they needed the money to start with. Because
Well, they needed the 15 million. Maybe don't spend money on Mateus Nunes.
That doesn't. The two are not linked.
Well, no, they are, because if you need 15
not.
million, you spent 55 on.
But Mateus Nunes was 18 months before. There's not, the two are not linked. But I think they need money to balance their books anyway. Palmer wanted to play. He was never going to play at City. I think you can also understand his position to wanting to leave. For the lab, it's maybe different. The guy scored 8 goals in the championship in like almost 50 games last season. I don't think anybody, not even him or his dad, could have forced him.
So he got a lot better very quickly, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, this season, 6 goals in his first 11, before yesterday, 11 games in the Premier League. At his age, having never played in the Premier League before, is pretty surprising in the sense that nobody, I think, could have predicted that. So
I mean, I think, look, it's kind of an unkind thing to play, to game to play. You could add Jadon Sancho, you could add Pedro Porro to other players who...
Yeah, and other clubs and other managers have had
I do think the lab
things.
might be a little bit different, simply because Manchester City only have one center forward right
that's
now.
true.
And you could have rotated him in, you could have given him enough minutes. Whatever. Hindsight is always
No, it's
2020. Back to Manchester United. All right. I don't know. It was so disjointed, so obvious that these guys hadn't worked together, so obvious that other than putting the lineup together, all he could do was give them a few basic concepts because he didn't have time to work with them. That I kind of want to focus on some of his personnel choices, which I thought surprised me. Everybody said, or many people said, we suspected Ahmad might have a shot because of his energy, because of his quality. But I thought he was going to play on the left side and not play as an inverted winger, because the whole notion that we'd been told was that, he liked to have wide men. I know it's a little bit different with Kenda, but he liked to have at least one wide man who could deliver crosses with his better foot.
Yeah.
Instead, he goes on this. It said both he and Dalla were effectively inverted.
True. I mean, Ahmad plays on the right usually, even when he plays higher up on the pitch. So I think maybe.
But he does it as an inverted winger. I mean, Ahmad is left-footed, right?
Yeah. So he just played a little bit deeper, but still on that right-hand side. That didn't really shock me.
But why not?
Why not what?
Why not play him on the other flank where he?
Because even Ahmad himself prefers playing on the right. So
because he's a number 10 and he's always come inside.
Yeah.
But if you ask him, if you're playing him as a wing back and in that system, what we've been told is that he likes his wing backs to stay very wide and primarily deliver crosses.
It depends who your inside 10 is, for example. So when Garnacho played on that side with Ahmad, it makes sense for Ahmad to still come inside a little bit, even as a wing back, and then leave Garnacho wider by the touchline, which they did in the second half, for example, which I think worked better. The second half was better than the first half. The first half, they had 4 touches, including the goal and the cross. So 2 outside of the goal after 80 seconds into the Ipswich box. That was not good enough. The second half was much better. Even the way they moved the ball, all the numbers are higher in the second half than the first half. But I was shocked a little bit more maybe. But again, it's not surprising. It's the squad review that he did. We had 4 different inside 10s. We had different pairs of 6s. He changed pretty much a player per line at some point quite early as well. Some of his substitutions were 55th minute, 62nd minute.
I just think he wanted to see them play.
Yeah, but it's risky to do that in a game too, because like you said, they were not great, but they were not bad either. They were clearly happy with the draw. So was he. So I thought that was really interesting, even to see Bruno. I think he was really interesting on Bruno after the game, because he said Bruno playing deeper is great. You can see it. But he said we can't play Bruno deep all the time, because all he wants to do is play the ball long, and we can't play the ball long all the time. So Bruno higher up as an inside 10 like he did in the first half and first 50 minutes, I think is good for them. But then you also see the limitations of Bruno in that position and why you're missing out on him not playing deeper. But when he's deeper, then he has that tendency to play long all the time. So even the Bruno position, when we thought, okay, Bruno is nailed on, he would be his guy, I think he will still be his guy. But even Amorim himself is just wondering what to do with Bruno right now. And same with Garnacho. I didn't think Garnacho could play inside 10s. And then Amorim after the game said, we saw straight away that he could play between the lines, that he was good, that he could turn. And suddenly Garnacho as a 10 makes sense for him. So probably this game didn't answer too many of his questions, and instead actually added more questions and more, not issues, but question marks over what to do and who to play where.
I think the Mazraoui as the third center back again. When we did our breakdown with Mark Ogden, he was totally against both Mazraoui and Dalla in the back three. He's just like, they can't defend, because you know how he's old school. But I thought if there's somebody who played in the back three, it's going to be Dalla, not Mazraoui. For the simple reason that Mazraoui, Dalla, I think of Dalla more as a runner. And the ball progressors, at least at Sporting, the guy, Gonzalo Ignacio and Diomande, are more in that mold than a guy like Mazraoui, who's got more of the vision of a midfielder. So he surprised me there. Evans, I guess, Lisandro out, whatever. I don't think Evans did well at all in that position, but you don't expect him to.
And you had him for 2 weeks. That's probably why he started as well.
Exactly. Actually, that's a big factor. And that's why I asked you before, like, did Eriksson not go away with them?
He did,
And then you plump him down in the middle. It feels like I need to have a passer in the middle, right? I can't go Ugarte, Casemiro, and maybe Menu too young or whatever. I don't know that we're going to see this again. I don't think those two worked well. It looked to me like they still have a ton to learn.
Yeah, and the legs have gone, clearly. So I think there's a lot, but we knew we would learn a lot from this first game, and on the same times, we knew that it would be like that in a way, right? There was nothing surprising in the way they play, the way they played, and the struggles that they had at times, and the fact that even he said himself, there's so much, they need more time. And he said after the game, maybe the most worrying, he said he questioned the players' decision making. And I think it's either because, like you said, they just wanted to be cautious, let's not make a mistake here, let's just keep it simple, or he really believes that they're just not at that level yet. But they are good players. This is like a good team.
Some of them
it's
are.
A big club. Yeah,
some
but
are better than others. Yeah,
it's quite worrying for you managers to come in and say like, some of the decision making was terrible today.
I thought the press looked better with Højlund and Zirkzee. I know people have decided that Zirkzee is terrible and whatever, and that finish that he had was terrible. But I thought, I'm only watching on television. I'm only seeing a box. I asked Mark, and he said, and who was there, and he's like, no, Zirkzee was rubbish again. Like, okay, fine. And Højlund was just running around like with no purpose. I do wonder, can you maintain this with Rashford? Like, is there going to be an actual? Are these positions up for grabs? Like, if you look at Zirkzee,
I think all of them are pretty much.
So you think Zirkzee's in the mix? I mean,
absolutely. As a 10, as an inside 10, or as a 9, but more as an inside 10 for me.
And so then your 9s become Rashford and
Højlund.
Højlund, which in this system, Rashford at 9, I think is okay. I mean, is okay. Like I like this better than, the bad Rashford we saw cutting in from the wing the last month, which it obviously lost something. All right, this is going to be interesting to watch. Final question. Some ex-pros on television said there's no way he can play back three between now and the end of the season because it's just not possible in the Premier League without a ton of preparation. And they said, I will bet you that he was going to go to a back four. It's not me saying it. This is ex-pro on English television. Do you agree?
I don't agree, no, but it might happen. It's possible. Well, it's true that he's got 10 games in 32 days, including the one yesterday. So there's no time to work, which is true. But like he said after the game, he needs time. He needs loads of work and loads of time, which he won't get. But he would not have started with the back three yesterday if he didn't want to play that system. 100%.
I completely agree with you.
Ipswich Town 1, Manchester United 1. That is how Ruben Amorim's first game as Manchester United finished. His team came flying out the traps and got that early goal through Marcus Rashford, but it was Hutchinson who levelled things out, and that is how the game finished afterwards. Ruben Amorim had this to say: "It is a tough league. My players were thinking too much during the game. You can feel it, not just on the ball, but where they are supposed to be on the pitch. We are going to suffer for a long period, and we will try to win games. This will take time. I know we have to win games." Has he realised now that it will take longer than he was thinking, or did he already know?
I think he already knew. Listen, and a lot has been made of Amorim's preferred formation of three at the back, and while it wasn't too much of a departure from what we've come to see of Manchester United against Ipswich, I think he's kind of inching towards his preferred way of playing football. And with that comes everybody, not just the defenders, but everybody having to take up different positions and play different roles where for different scenarios on the park. That comes with time. It's not going to happen in the first game. And we knew that. We knew Amorim is not going to come in and all of a sudden it's going to be Manchester United of 98-99 that eclipsed Newcastle at the top of the Premier League, that 14-point lead. We knew it wasn't going to be that version of Manchester United. This is part of the process, and I don't think it comes as a surprise to anyone who really has been paying attention.
Frank, how hard is it to learn a new system as a player like this in the middle of the season when a new coach comes in?
I'm sorry, as a football player, you have to be ready to accept any changing of tactics, and playing at three at the back or four at the back, it's just a kind of an understanding between the players. It's all about the three at the back, and I listened to Stevie yesterday during the show. He was explaining everything perfectly in a way that the three players have to slide from one side to another, and the two wing backs have to make sure that they work a little bit but don't come too down, because otherwise it's not a 3-4-3, it's just a 5-2-3. It doesn't mean anything. It's not the same system. So they have to understand that. Maybe Amad Diallo is a little bit too young, but Diallo on the other side should understand that. But it's really up to the three at the back to slide from left to right in order to compensate the fact that they're not four, they are only three. But come on, it's not a big deal. And I didn't see that yesterday. We already said before the game that it would be a problem because they don't have the individuals maybe for that. They're not fast enough to cope with that. They don't understand maybe enough that tactic, but really it's not really a big deal. It should click very quickly, or otherwise they will have big problems.
You know, we always talk about the difference of the new era, of the new football. And one of the worst things about the new era and the new football is that players today have to be spoon-fed. Players today need to be told exactly every single thing they need to do all the time, because they don't take the responsibility of working it out for themselves. You know, Frank's talking about when he played, and I played the generation before Frank, where you had to work it out yourself. You were helped along and you were told, but you had to work it out on the field. Because when the game starts, you don't have a manager sitting there spoon-feeding you all the information. You can't keep looking at the bench and keep looking around, and you've got to figure it out quickly. And when you play for Manchester United, you better have a football brain that is able to do that. But unfortunately, it looks like not just Manchester United players, but too many players today, the younger guys in particular, they can't handle something like this, a whole new change. You know, you've got to embrace it, and you've got to use the football intelligence you have to make the best of it until it becomes natural.
Let me say, I disagree a little bit. I think while that is true when your defenders are Nickel and Hansen or LeBoeuf and Desailly, but when you're talking Mazraoui and De Ligt and Evans and Lisandro Martinez, that's a different conversation altogether. So while I get the point that, yes, modern day footballers should be able, or sitting back in the day, you could make that change. Good footballers could make that change quite easily. I've played in teams where we couldn't make that change in the drop of a hat as they are today. And again, this is not Manchester United of old. This is the Manchester United that are sitting, what they 14th, with good reason. Because they aren't good. Because they can't make those changes. This, for me, I think, while I get the point that Frank and Steve are making, I don't think this team can.
Well, obviously, they are in the bottom half of the table.
I just want to say,
Go on,
sorry, just to give you an example, when we had to play at Old Trafford, at Anfield Road, against Liverpool, and you had somebody like Michael Owen who was very fast and everything, we used to play a 3 at the back because we had, I think it was Fowler and Michael Owen, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe somebody else with Michael Owen, but we wanted two centre backs to mark them and me to cover those 2 players. So we play at 3 at the back to make sure we can get the counter-attack, because we knew that they will put pressure on us. And we wanted to offer a possibility of counter-attack being higher on the field. But we had 2-3 training sessions to work on that. We knew how Michael Owen was working, and we had to deal with that. And we had Albert Ferrell, which was a right back, playing left centre back. That was the personnel we had, but he was an international Spanish player, smart enough to understand how Michael Owen was working and being able to cope with the situation 3 days after working on it. So it's why I say, yeah, it's maybe not the former time, but we are talking about international players. De Ligt, Evans, Mazraoui are international players. They should be able to cope with that.
Ian, I want to bring you into this conversation, especially with the fact that he said they're thinking too much, which is understandable when it's players trying to play in a new system. But as mentioned, we are coming up to the middle-way point of the season. This is a precarious time to be bringing a new system into a team that needs to be climbing up that table.
Yeah, it is, but that's what he does, and that's why they've appointed him, and it's going to take, miracles take time, don't they? It's going to take time for this team to evolve. It's good he's got Luke Shaw fit again, because he can play left of a 3 at the back. They've still got Maguire to get fit again, and they've got this guy they spent 50 million on, Lenny Yoro, who's not played so far, but he's surely going to get in the team. They haven't spent that kind of money on him to leave him rotting on the bench. So it will be interesting. There will be extra personnel to play with. But it's going to take some time. It's going to take at least, I think, to the end of this season and into next for Amorim to have this team playing and imbue his ideas, his tactics, his mentality more than anything, and start a new culture at Manchester United. It's a long job, and it's probably not going to happen overnight. Well, it's definitely not going to happen overnight.